Hey, let's take a moment to learn how to check and refill our brake fluid. Without brake fluid, our car isn't going to stop very well, so this is a critical fluid to have in your car and often a very overlooked fluid. Well, the first thing we will need to do is get that hood open. Now, every car is a little bit different, but most cars have a pretty similar process. We're going to go into the driver's side of the car. Let me switch cameras around and let's go over to the driver's side of the car and release the hood from inside the car. All right, so we are going to open the driver's door, and what we see is down by the foot pedals. Let me pull that key out so we don't hear this binging noise the whole time. All right, down by the foot pedals is usually where you're going to find the release. Now on this car, it's right here. That's supposed to be a car with a hood open is what that symbol means. Sometimes it's over here, like directly underneath the steering wheel. Those are the two most common places where you'll find this hood release. So we're going to give it a pull, and I heard a clink outside the car, which is the hood releasing. So let's go out there and take a look. So now we see that the hood is slightly popped up. Not a lot. Sometimes it doesn't pop up much, so you just give it a little yank with your fingers to get it up. And now there's a secondary safety release. Pretty much every car will have one, and it's in this crack somewhere. Sometimes it's on this end, sometimes it's on the right side, sometimes it's on the left side, sometimes it's in the middle, and sometimes, in very rare circumstances, there's like a little pull down in the grill. It's usually sticking out. It's a little bit different. Most cars, though, will have this style release. Now, if I look, I can see, it's hard to see on camera. There it is. See that little tab sticking out there? We're going to push that release over and then lift the hood up. Now, this hood stays up on its own. Some cars will have a little bar right about here that you'll lift up and you'll put into a little slot here to hold it up. That is a hood prop or a hood stand, whatever you want to call it. That's what that's for. And that is how we get our hood up. Now we have access to the engine compartment. All right, we are going to look for the brake fluid inside our engine compartment, and every car is different, but usually from looking at the front of the car, usually the brake fluid is towards the right-hand side. So let's go over here. Now, I see it. It's back here. Now, that yellow symbol is supposed to be the stop symbol. And that's what it says. And .3 is actually a type of brake fluid. So that is the brake fluid that my car needs. So that is what we are looking for. To check this, we are going to turn this cap and remove it. And in there we see a black colored fluid. Now we also see there's a slot back here. The fluid should be no higher than that slot. So it looks like I could probably use just a little bit more fluid, but it's really not low. But there's room for more. So we would get the correct brake fluid for our car. So we'll want to check to make sure we're getting the right fluid. In this case, since the cap says .3, I should be able to safely assume that I need .3 brake fluid. I would open that bottle up and pour it in till the fluid is no higher than this line or that gap. That is as full as we want it. We don't want to fill it all the way up. That would be too much brake fluid. Now, something to note about brake fluid, if we don't use that whole container, it's not always a good idea to keep the leftover brake fluid on hand. The reason that we don't want to keep that extra brake fluid is, I think they call it like hydroscopic. It's hydro something, which means it actually absorbs moisture out of the air, and it can become waterlogged and not work properly anymore. So inside the bottle, as it sits on the shelf, it can be sitting there absorbing moisture out of the air and essentially going bad. Now, sometimes when you're at the mechanic, they'll tell you it's about time to change your brake fluid. The reason they tell you this is because in your car, it's doing the same thing. And when it absorbs too much moisture out of the air, it no longer has the same stopping capabilities. So although some mechanics recommend this service too often, When they say it, it is something to take note of. It is also worth checking our car specs to see how often our car recommends changing the brake fluid. So that is why you would change brake fluid. It can get dirty, but more importantly, it can absorb moisture. And when it absorbs moisture, it no longer has the correct stopping power. So that is how we check our brake fluid. I hope this is helpful for you to know how to do things to your car. If this has been helpful to you, please click that like button. Please subscribe to this channel for more helpful how-tos. And if you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, please write those down in the comments section below. I love hearing from you guys. I hope you have a fantastic day.